Hi, everyone. I'm Christine, and I am the host today of M2. I am the CMO of M2. And here with me, I have Kim Wong, which is the head of treasury for M2, and David Bailey, the CEO of BTC Inc. So nice to have you both on with us.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Amazing. David, do you want to give us a little bit of background on yourself? Kind of give us, your story and how BTC Inc. came to be.
Yeah, sure. I'll keep it quick. So I've been in Bitcoin for quite a while. I got involved when I was in college in 2012 and bought my first Bitcoins and have kind of been on the roller coaster ride ever since. I've kind of done it all, crypto, blockchain, Bitcoin. But since 2018, our company has just done Bitcoin. Some would call us Bitcoin maxis. I call it Bitcoin only. And then at our company, BTC Inc., we own a variety of different businesses. We're probably best known for Bitcoin Magazine, which is the oldest media brand in the world on Bitcoin. But we also own the Bitcoin Conference, which is the largest Bitcoin or crypto event in the world. It's where President Trump spoke just a few months ago. And we also own UTXO Management, which is a venture fund and hedge fund focused on Bitcoin startups and Bitcoin derivatives. All things Bitcoin, and I can do Bitcoin all day, every day.
Amazing. Kim, could you give us kind of a little bit of background on you and how you got into the whole Bitcoin/crypto space?
Yeah, so my background really is in TradFi. So I spent 20 years in derivatives and bonds and equities. And I started my career in London and then moved to Hong Kong in 2004. I only really stumbled across Bitcoin because there was so much activity in Hong Kong. As you know, there's a lot of startups that were founded from Hong Kong. And around 2018 is when I first kind of made that switch. Maybe a little bit reluctantly to begin with, because just used to sort of, trading in regulated markets and liquid products. And then 2018, I just made that move across, and I never looked back, since then. And it's the space is just growing to be so much more institutionalized, and there's definitely alpha, and there's definitely money to be made from this space right now as a standalone asset class.
I feel like once you get into Bitcoin, there's just no going back to the old world. It's just like all the excitement from your legacy job is gone. You're numb to it, and it's like we're now adrenaline junkies, like chasing the next all-time high.
Exactly.
I tend to agree with that.
Yeah, I mean the thing that really takes me by surprise is the volatility. Everyone gets shocked and scared by volatility, but actually this is what we love as investors and traders, right? This is the perfect storm for us. And when you see guys like Michael Saylor go out and buy Bitcoin and raise money from the equity markets, it's amazing. It's something that it's music to my ears, really, in this space right now.
I think even from the marketing side, what's interesting about working in crypto and Bitcoin specifically is it's not just a 9 to 6 type of job, right? I think a lot of jobs you can do marketing from 9 to 6, but with something like crypto, it's 24 hours. And that adrenaline that you get at 4 o'clock in the morning with, did the price change? Do we have to post? What can we do tomorrow to, help a little bit to get more customers on board? It's truly something that I don't think in any other industry you have that type of rush. So it's truly incredible, like you said, David.
Yeah, I think it's one of the most undercounted parts of Bitcoin and crypto is that this is a movement, and so when you work in TradFi, it's not a movement. People at Goldman Sachs, it's not like it's a movement for Goldman Sachs to improve the world, and so bear market, bull market, the ups and the downs, like the people who are into Bitcoin and crypto, they just grind it out. I mean, they just it's a way of life. So, from that perspective, I feel like Bitcoin is inevitable, invincible, because it's just we literally live for this. Like, it's not just our job. So yeah, it's a cool thing to be a part of.
Definitely. given obviously what we're talking about now, Bitcoin has hitting the all-time high or has hit the all-time high in recent weeks. Kim, what do you think about that performance of Bitcoin, and overall, how do you see the trend going?
Yeah, there's definitely, as I mentioned about MicroStrategy, that's definitely providing a floor to this market, right? And you're seeing the market dominance in Bitcoin really hitting around 60%. And you're seeing a bit of rotation as well. As the price goes higher, people move out and then they buy layer ones and altcoins, and you're seeing that, the Ethereum, Solanas, the AVAX of the world starting to move higher, right, on days where Bitcoin isn't really doing much. But having said that, the options market is pricing in this, I would say, 100K to 120K on the overshoot. So you might see that happen this year. There's also quite a lot of interest around the 150 to 100K strikes, a little bit further out to 300K, but that's 3x from here. But I think 2x is definitely an area of open interest that might be appealing to guys that once they see 120 break, they will start moving the interest up higher on the curve.
And David, what do you think is contributing to this rally? Obviously, I think there's multiple factors, but what's your perspective on it?
Yeah, it's there's a lot of factors. I think really TradFi is showing up to Bitcoin for the first time in a real way, and maybe not TradFi just from an institutional perspective, but you had the ETFs that kicked us off earlier this year. You have really this blending of capital markets and Bitcoin markets with Bitcoin on the balance sheet, and so pioneered by MicroStrategy, but I think lots of companies are coming to follow in the footsteps. And my expectation is that we're going to see some Fortune 50 companies over the next year, put Bitcoin on their balance sheet as well. So, that has a long ways to run. I think by the end of this year, MicroStrategy is going to be included in some pretty major indexes. I think they're going to be in the S&P 500 officially. And once you kind of get that market basket weighting, there's a lot of passive flows that come into these stocks that are going to give Michael more capital to dilute with and buy Bitcoin with. So I think there's a pretty big melding happening there. And then there's the tailwinds that are coming off of the U.S. election. It's really a seismic change that happened in terms of the policy approach of the Trump administration versus the Biden administration. And I think there's a lot of excitement and a lot of, let's say, a lot of captured imagination on the possibilities of, a U.S. strategic reserve and the U.S. government entering the market as an active participant. And I think that there's pretty significant knock-on effects downstream from that of other nations wanting to be aligned with U.S. policy and wanting to, not be a laggard, but, an innovator. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see additional announcements, hopefully some coming from the MENA region, about establishing strategic reserves for other nation states as well. So a lot of positive momentum going on. And then couple all of that with just, in Bitcoin, we have these 4-year cycles where typically, post a halving, 12 months later, there's a supply shock that hits the market. And so the halving happened earlier this year. And so, that supply mechanic is kind of working its way into the marketplace. So it feels a little bit like a perfect storm is kind of lining up for some major price action.
Yeah, definitely. I think, Kim, and I would love to get your take on this. Obviously, the halving is something that happened earlier this year. I think at that time, we didn't see much movement right away, or we didn't see that big spike that we expected. So what do you think about that? What do you think about the fact that the spike ended up happening a bit later than what, I think most of us had anticipated?
Yeah, I think it's, everyone's, tries to time the market, and that's, almost impossible to do, right? That you're always going to buy at a higher price than you would like to, right? So it's an unfortunate thing, but at the end of the day, this is an asset class that has legs, that will stay. I mean, it's not going away, and the more focus from institutions and the more asset allocation towards this asset class will not only drive the price higher, but it will really sort of put it on the map. If I look at who's really selling out there, there really isn't that many sellers. The mining community do not want to sell their Bitcoin. They are firm hodlers of Bitcoin, right? So, and there's not much left to be mined. So I think it's kind of a race to see who can buy theirs as cheap as they can, right? In this environment, every time this price ticks higher, you kind of kick yourself that you didn't buy it, 20K lower. But that's
I definitely am.
As Michael Saylor says, every Bitcoin you don't buy today is $13 million that you've lost 20 years from now. So yeah. And I think the halving. There's always a lot of excitement around the halving, and there's people who want to, let's say, speculate or front run the halving. And so you see some price movements around when the halving occurs. But from my experience, it always has taken time for the halving to really have a meaningful impact on the market, because after one day, you've only removed a couple hundred Bitcoins from circulation that otherwise would have been there. After 100 days, it's 100 times the impact. It starts to become, more significant. By the end of the year, there's 100-something thousand less Bitcoins that otherwise would have been out there in the marketplace that, are not being mined and added to circulation. So, to put that into context, that's half of all of MicroStrategy's purchases that they've done since they've existed as a company. That's, hasn't been added to the circulation of the supply since the halving. So the effect is there. It just kind of takes time to build momentum.
Definitely. Switching gears a bit, because David, the way that we met you is we're a sponsor of Bitcoin MENA, and that's how we got to know you. So we'd love to hear a little bit about Bitcoin MENA and why you ended up bringing it to the region. I think it's something that we're really excited to see in Abu Dhabi specifically. So would love to hear a little bit about how that came to be and why the MENA region.
Yeah. So first off, thank you all for y'all's support and for supporting the event. And I look forward to meeting you and your viewers and customers in Abu Dhabi. But why did we come to MENA in the first place? Well, we have long believed in this nation state adoption of Bitcoin. The vision of our company, the mission of our company is what's called hyper Bitcoinization, which is the universal adoption of Bitcoin by people around the world. And so, we've always seen the world as having, several different geopolitical poles where, really as the world enters a new era, let's say, in society, like these are going to be the centers of power and influence through, a region is influence. So we do this conference in a couple different places. We do the conference in Amsterdam. We do it in Hong Kong. And, now we spent quite a while trying to figure out where's the right place to do this in MENA, and ultimately decided on UAE and Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, we're obviously, as a company that's based in Abu Dhabi, we're very excited that a conference like Bitcoin MENA is happening in what we consider our backyard. So it's very exciting for us, and not only for us as people who work in the crypto industry, but we also believe that it can help to lead greater adoption to those who haven't necessarily invested just yet in crypto or are taking a look at it. Kim, a question for you. And
just one thing to add to that is, it's all about alignment, like financial alignment, aligning incentives. That's what's been missing, and I think that's what's coming.
Yeah, which we're very excited about, and we've seen it, being that we've been here for about 2 years, building it out of Abu Dhabi. So we've seen that, and we're excited to see how it continues to grow. Kim, talking a little bit about, obviously you've traded all over the world, right? Hong Kong, London, from different places. How do you see investors here in the MENA region, specifically when it comes to crypto and Bitcoin as well?
Actually, very surprised. The sort of how savvy these investors actually are, because I think the space is not, digital assets is not something that's new to most people here, right? In Dubai or Abu Dhabi, the government takes a very proactive stance. I think central bank also is proactive. looking at stablecoin and dirham-backed stablecoin as well. So it's very progressive, and I think investors here, if they're not already invested, are looking to obviously move very quickly into that into this space. Given what's the backdrop of what's happening in the US and how that can really change the sort of the global mindset of this asset class. I think they have been doing it for a while now, so it's nothing new.
Yeah, I mean, I previously, I've been in crypto for about five years now. And, I've worked for multiple companies that work with regulators in the region to create frameworks to be able to, facilitate the ability for people to be able to buy crypto, which is something that's been incredible to be a part of, is to work with regulators that really want to see how they can make this work in the region specifically. And in the past 5 years alone, or 4 years, the growth that I've been able to see has been something incredible. And I think, Kim, you can probably attest to that. Even, from a year to year, you see how the improvements are being made. And, it's exciting. It's exciting to be a part of it here in this region specifically. So I think that's one of the reasons also why having a conference like Bitcoin MENA in the region is so exciting for us and for everyone here.
Yeah, one of the things that's important is to be able to buy Bitcoin. You can now deposit dirhams with M2 and use that to buy Bitcoin, and that's something that only happened this year. And I think M2 was probably the first to do that, right? And others are trying to follow as well. But that's important. Again, the dollar cost average mentality every month, 10% of the salary. Buy Bitcoin on the zero and just hold it.
Cool.
Yeah. Great. So, looking ahead, obviously we've been on a positive track record for Bitcoin and crypto, but, what do you see as some of the challenges, Kim, for the future?
I think, I was speaking at a treasury event, kind of a TradFi treasury event about a month or so ago. And again, as you were describing earlier, just the kind of the impression, that there's still kind of a divergence between TradFi and crypto. There's still this kind of barrier, it seems, and it's really trying to get that message across. And I don't want to convince people to make that step, but they need to figure out how to do it themselves. I think education is a big part of the challenge here. And the motivation, right? I think, if the US really takes a proactive stance, which they're doing so right now, then this could be sort of the big bang moment for this asset class. So again, you either take proactive steps now, or you get taken over by these Trump tsunami that's coming.
David, what do you see as some of the challenges?
It always scares me, because whenever I feel like everything is peaches and rainbows, like that means there's something, waiting to blow up somewhere. But I'm actually extremely bullish on the current environment. I really couldn't tell you what is a lasting headwind. There are certain headwinds that we have that, that are like, for example, one of the big headwinds we have in the U.S. is because of this SAB 121 and this SEC ruling, banks in the United States can't hold Bitcoin on their balance sheet. That's something that the new administration is planning on changing, but they haven't changed it yet. So, there's certain kind of blockers that need to be removed that we're anticipating and hoping get removed, and I think they will. But honestly, I feel like, the Bitcoin space race has begun, and it's now it used to be that you had career risk for bringing up Bitcoin at your job. And I think the dynamic is about to flip on its head, where you have career risk if you're, extremely anti-Bitcoin or, don't want to take it seriously. I think there's too much money. The ETFs, for example, these ETFs are the most successful ETFs to ever launch. Like BlackRock is coming up on exceeding the AUM of all the gold ETFs combined. So, you know,
Incredible.
like there is serious, major, mega money. And when you also have coupled with that nation state adoption happening, I mean, when you have central banks adding this to their balance sheet, what justification do you have as a financial institution to not take this seriously? And I think, you know, if we get to the point where, let's say, every central bank has, you know, 1% of their reserves in Bitcoin, we're looking at an astronomically high Bitcoin price in that environment. I mean, I don't know if it'll be $1 million. It could be $1 million. It could be beyond $1 million at 1%. So, you know, the upside is still unbelievably massive. And so, you know, in 1%, honestly, 1% sounds, it's surprising they don't already have 1%, to be honest. I mean, it's like, you know, you look at the percentages of gold. Actually, when we were working on the strategic Bitcoin reserve kind of plan and, you know, campaign platform, we were trying to figure out how much Bitcoin should the United States own. And if you kind of use this gold comparison, and you say, okay, well, how much of the investable gold does the United States own? It's almost 20%. So the United States would need to own 4 million Bitcoins to have a equal pro rata ownership stake in Bitcoin as it does in gold. 4 million Bitcoins. There's not even 1.5 million Bitcoins that are available on the open market to go and buy. Like the total amount of Bitcoins left to be mined is 1 million and change. And so, you know, it's like once the space race kicks in, once we have 4 or 5 different central banks out there publicly acquiring Bitcoin, I think that this is going to rapidly accelerate. And yeah, I think blue skies ahead.
Amazing. I mean, we hope, right?
That, you know, caveat, when the bear market eventually comes, once we've run this thing up to $1 million and it's time for a nice correction, it's going to be very, very painful. So, you know, good times today. We'll deal with the consequences of today, you know, tomorrow down the road.
we hope for positives. But yeah, we have a few questions from our audience. So we will go through those now so that we can, you know, hear from the people that are listening to us. Great. So the first question, for someone new to Bitcoin, what resources or sessions would you recommend they attend at the conference? David, this one I think is for you.
Yeah, well, first off, I recommend reading bitcoinmagazine.com. We have some great educational content on there. We have a program called 21 Days of Bitcoin, which will take you through a course just educating you on Bitcoin over a 21-day period. It's easy. It takes 10 minutes a day. And by the end of it, you're going to be way more knowledgeable. But when you're at the conference, you know, we'll be publishing the full agenda to the conference soon, and you'll be able to identify what content in there really speaks to you. We'll have content ranging kind of all different levels of experience and knowledge. So we'll have beginner content, intermediate content, you know, ultra in the weeds content. So there'll be something for everyone.
Amazing. What are some of the key events or speakers or that attendees should not miss at Bitcoin MENA conference this year?
So I highly recommend catching Eric Trump's speech at the conference. I highly recommend catching CZ's speech, and we've specifically challenged CZ to speak to nation state adoption of Bitcoin as well. And for those of you that have followed CZ over the years, he's the founder of Binance, and I think one of kind of the most preeminent evangelist of Bitcoin. And so I think has some pretty interesting things to share on that topic.
And lastly, I'll plug Sudu, our CPO, will also be speaking at the conference. So he'll be speaking, I think, specifically on regulation in the MENA region. So, you know, that's also an exciting topic that people should tune into. But yes, all of the ones that you mentioned, plus Sudu.
I'm excited to see Eric Trump, honestly.
Me too. It'll be interesting to watch.
Agreed.
Okay. How can listeners stay engaged with the updates from the conference if they're unable to attend in person? So is there any way that, you know, people can tune in?
Yeah, so one of the cool things about our conference is that we do a free live stream of every conference, and it's not just like the sessions. Like we have a cool anchor desk. I don't know if ESPN exists in the MENA region, but we have our ESPN equivalent desk with talking heads and anchors analyzing each session. And so just go to the conference website or follow any of our social channels, and you can watch that stream for free. And catch the most important content that we have, and then anything that's not streamed, because we'll have multiple stages going simultaneously, and we typically only stream one of the stages. We'll record, and immediately after the conference is over, we release and make available for free as well on our social channels. So the only part you'll be missing out on is really the opportunity to network and meet people, but all the content will be out there.
Great. And I think this will be our last question. Someone wants to know if M2 is available in Germany.
Let's go.
So currently we are available. We are available in Germany. So yes. But thank you both so much. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, David, for taking the time. And we're excited to see what happens in the coming weeks.
Thank you. Inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Ciao.
Bye.
Thanks.